Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Careers Get Into IT Live, where we do just that, get into all things IT. We are here today on Friday at noon. We are joined by a recently familiar face in Cory Sadler, who I will properly introduce in just a second. Cory, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Good to be
Thank
back.
you. Thank you. Happy Friday, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us as always. Thanks for joining us at your lunch hour. We have a really interesting topic today, and this is, we talk about a bucket or several buckets of content, and usually that's education related, that's job related, that's military transition related, and then we try and hit on grad and student success. But one of the other buckets is IT industry and news and kind of what's happening. And I reached out to Cory and asked, do you have any ideas on topics? And he got back to me on this, microchips and what's happening with semiconductors and kind of the how the tariffs may be impacting things, and thought it was kind of a no-brainer. So we are going to focus on the mighty microchip. Semiconductors are front and center in the news right now as tariffs and manufacturing issues are impacting the IT industry far and wide. So we thought we'd invite Cory back to the broadcast to help us make sense of what's happening. So that's kind of the intro. That's what we're going to talk about. Our title is The Great Chip Challenge, IT's Next Evolution. And Cory Sadler, our fella here that's joining us, is a certification coach and lead instructor at MyComputerCareer. His background, I'm looking at it, and it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bullet points. But the highlights are he's really good at what he does. He lives in the world of IT, and he's won several awards at MyCC, and he's very learned when it comes to this industry. So we couldn't have a better guy to join us to unpack some of this stuff that I don't understand at all. But guess what? He does, and he's going to help you understand better kind of what's happening. Make sense? Was that a good intro, Cory? Did I get it right?
Well, thank you very much. Much kinder than, I probably deserve, but I definitely appreciate it.
Not a chance. Really appreciate you joining us. Folks, as always, Rick, I see you're there. Thanks. Yep, little semiconductor talk to get us going. Appreciate you. If you have a comment, if you have any questions, anything for Cory, we love those. Jump in, comment. We will do our best to answer those for you. I certainly won't, but Cory will. So have some fun today. Let's spend a quick 30, and we'll get you into your weekends. All right, Cory, what do you say we start this thing?
Let's do it.
Right. So obviously we've talked about the fact that you're very involved in IT education. How are the semiconductor supply chain updates and issues affecting the hardware that all of us IT or all of you IT pros work with daily?
Well, it's changing the entire landscape, really. A lot of folks, it really comes back to, are you a half full, glass type of person, or a half empty? I'm more of a, half full kind of guy. And so it is changing things in the entire landscape, at least for the next couple of years anyways. And that the half empty folks are all like, oh, hey, laptop servers, networking gear, all those prices are essentially climbing and going through the roof, and they're not wrong. Absolutely they are. The lead times are super brutal right now for anything that has to do with hardware, and chips in general, right? And so with that, it's really allowing for creativity to fester, and this is really where IT pros come in and really, hit a home run, because it really allows us to look at hardware and figure out whether or not, that hardware is being maximized to its fullest potential. And it really comes back to software developers as well, so it's good for everyone, really. And it creates a situation where, industries are more dependent upon the pros, right, to stretch their hardware as far as they can get it, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And a whole bunch of sense, Cory. And as you were talking about that, it actually got me thinking. I I'm originally from Ohio. You live in Ohio, and just outside of Columbus, Intel was building a microchip plant,
Oh yeah.
and they were spending billions of dollars, obviously.
Oh yeah, they're not the only ones. You got TSMC. I mean, right now, a lot of folks like completely miss the scope of how much imbalanced chip manufacturing is going to come in line in the United States. Currently, right now, there's over 24 actual manufacturing facilities throughout the United States under construction. Already broke dirt.
Wow.
By 2030, there's going to be another 15. And so, the need for American chips, like Qualcomm and a lot of the X chips as well, Tesla's full self-driving, all of
Right.
these things are going to be huge, and going to be an American product eventually.
And we're going to dig into some of that. But the reason I kind of brought that up is in the case of Intel, they paused. They
Hmm.
paused production. They are not putting the uh, the plant in now, or the HQ in now in New Albany. And I think they cited obviously some of the reasons that we're seeing. And I think one of the things that I heard is they seem to think there's going to be less dependence on microchips moving forward. Is that, do you echo that, or am I making that up?
Well, I don't think there will be a less of a dependence because you
Yeah.
got to think we're in the AI era, we're in the 5G era,
Yeah.
right? So all of these things are going to drive the need for that supply chain. And really when you start thinking about it too, where they're able to pause and kind of take a break right now is they're essentially looking at platforms like Android, which is, some folks all about Android, some folks hate it.
Right.
Um, but you start thinking about like EVs in China and so on and so forth. That's the true limitation of their EVs compared to other manufacturers like Tesla. Tesla developed an entire operating system for their car,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of these like BYD and all these other manufacturers that are well known, essentially with their rush to market, are really dependent upon Android, which I don't know if you know this, but Android, if we do things or access the hardware through applications and apps through Android, you're not really getting the full benefit of the hardware. And so this is where American manufacturing and like Tesla in general and in that ideology that Qualcomm shares, is going to go a long way. Where Qualcomm has an edge really over everyone is the fact that they're interchangeable. No matter what you're using,
Yeah.
you can use a Qualcomm chip with your operating system and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. And I believe that that is going to drive future markets and in the future innovation, because, it really does unleash the ability to be flexible, not only in your design, but, your execution as well.
I thought you were going to say Qualcomm has an edge because of all the money they have, but to be fair, they all do. So fair enough. Yeah. So you mentioned EVs, Cory. Let's jump down to that. Let's talk about EVs, smart vehicles. They're essentially, as you know, obviously, computers on wheels. How are semiconductor availability issues affecting the advancement of vehicle technology?
Oh, it's really put, the EV market on its head. It really has, especially with the geopolitical drama that's going on right now. It's definitely paused some things. When you think about the limitations of, like other markets, like the BYD market and so on and so forth, really their limitations are the fact that they went all in on Android and they went all in on Snapdragon. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Snapdragon's been kind of phased out. But they still have a backlog of Snapdragon chips.
What
And
is Snapdragon, Cory?
well, it's an older, it's a specialized chip, that is actually an old, I believe it's 5130 Qualcomm that's been rebranded,
Okay.
but it's been phased out. But at the end of the day, you start looking at, the collapse of that market. I mean, it's in free fall right now. They're shutting down factories left and right in China because of that chip shortage and in the lack of ability to pivot to full operating system. So the true issue there is that they never developed a full operating system, say in the same way that say Tesla and Rivian did. They just went all in on Android. That's why the joke in the industry is if you buy a BYD or an EV from China, say like in the United States, it would be Mullen. If you were to buy one of those, you're just buying an Android on wheels. And really, that's kind of the issue right now is the fact that they went all in on that pre-made operating system and didn't really take the time to develop. Whereas like Tesla is trying to reduce the amount of chips that they're putting in their cars right now, which some folks are saying that this is dramatically going to impact the quality of the product, and but just remember that it's not just EVs, it's all auto manufacturers at this point. They're trying to figure out how to scale down their designs and reuse hardware that they already have. And that is truly the theme of the day throughout all aspects of IT right now. So did I lose you?
Looks like you vanished. All right, I will take over here. Gotta brush the hair, right?
I lost Aaron.
Lost it. Well, he said
I
that.
thought he was like, man, the guy's talking too much.
Bye. Mute. It's all good. Hi, everybody. We'll just keep on going. And you talked briefly about the production of EV vehicles. Did you at all mention how this could slow down the production of those as well?
Oh yeah, I mean we're looking at a situation right now where everybody's trying to figure out how to make what they have work. As far as production, everything's super scarce right now, and it's causing future designs and future innovations to essentially slow down and be paused right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And do you anticipate these changes translating over to data centers and cloud computing infrastructure?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is what's exciting about being an IT professional right now, right? Is through this lens and pressure cooker of shortages and supply chain issues, this is really forcing folks to become more reliant upon IT professionals and different aspects of the industry. For example, like data centers, right now with the chip shortages and the kind of the pausing a little bit as far as throwing those up. I don't know if you know this, but there's 256 data centers under construction right now. I mean, it's insane the amount of money and investments that are actually being propagated to that. But they are all slowing down. And it really comes back to, who's most impacted, right? Is it going to be the data center? Is it going to be, the small businesses and so on and so forth? And obviously, small businesses are going to be most impacted. But this is where cloud engineering comes in, right? Like the ability to offload workloads that you would normally build in-house to the cloud, right? And so this not only gives opportunity for those who are software developers, but also those who specialize in cloud migrations.
Right. The cloud's huge. We keep hearing about the cloud.
Yeah.
We keep hearing about students all over the place that are going back to earn more certifications, obviously to keep up and upskill with IT, but cloud is like the constant thing. Like I got to go get this certification to make sure I learn more about the cloud. I got to learn more about this. So
there is a catch-22 though, right? Because server prices are up, right? Which then in turn drives the data center prices up, which then in turn drives the entire chain, the pricing for the entire industry up. And so, it gets to the point where cloud costs are going to be higher. And unfortunately, IT pros are in such high demand right now to solve this issue and to solve how can you get the most out of your current hardware? How can you get the most out of the data center? And so this is really driving a lot of innovation right now. I mean, pressure cookers always do,
That was a great
Yeah.
analogy. The pressure cooker thing that makes complete sense. It's a great visual. And those data centers, you said 250 some. Are those just all over the place or a specific?
Yeah, they're all over the United States right now.
Oh.
I believe if we start looking at it, you're looking at Alabama, you're looking at Texas, Arizona, New York. TSMC is under construction right now in Arizona, and they're planning on going to, I believe, like 2 other locations. Micron is kind of going all in Idaho. I mean, but it's literally spread across the entire United States right now. I mean,
Wow.
Indiana, Alabama, Texas, North Carolina, New York, Ohio, all those places. And the exciting thing really is all of these committed investments to 2030. I mean, there has never been a better time to be in IT. I mean, it'll be hard right now if you're brand new to gain that experience. But once these places are built and up and running, and they're constantly staggering out a new build, the demand for IT professionals are just going to be almost staggering.
Well, let's continue on with that thought there because I want to talk. We talked briefly about upskilling in the cloud, but let's talk about IT professionals and people seeking and considering IT careers. Which specialized skills might become more valuable as companies adapt to these supply chain changes?
So right now, I mean, development is hot, and software development is going to be continued, kind of like the EV piece that we kind of talked about, how they're creating applications to create the same functions within a car using Android operating systems. That whole ideology for IoT to cloud to your standard stack within a building, within the 4 walls of the building, are going to be a focal point to get the most out of it, right? So all aspects of IT, I believe, are going to see a huge boom, and essentially for the next 2 years, really, really focused on the expertise rather than a task list, right? And try to get
Sure.
the most out of what we have. And so I believe in the next 2 years, you're going to see the industry really value their smart hands and their certified employees to a higher level. Everything from electronic engineering to network administration, system administration, security is always hot. So it's never been a better time to be in the IT field. That's for sure.
Definitely going to be clipping that later because that's one of our, it's one of our most frequently, Aaron's chips must have failed. That's going to be it's our most frequently asked question, right? They see like layoffs or they see these updated and changes and they think like, oh, there's no space in IT for somebody like myself, or there's no space here, when really there is, folks.
Well, the issue truly is experience, right? And so too often folks fall into this notion that I don't have any experience while they're building a server stack in their basement, you know? And so there's definitely room to incorporate your actual experience, right? Most industry professionals would rather you know what you're doing rather than know the theory of what you're doing, right? And so that hands-on experience, whether you have it in your basement or you have it in your school where you're attending, I mean, all of those things should be highlighted as a focal point of why you're qualified to do what you're doing, right? And once you get that 6 or 7 months under your belt, it's much easier to transition to you know what you envision for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that also translates to, you could probably say that for any industry out there, any career, right?
Yeah, it's having confidence, really, is what it comes back to.
Sure.
So many people don't have it. I mean, and it's hard to have it when you haven't been validated, right? And so it's hard for us to validate ourselves, right? And a lot of us are too humble to do that. But at the same time, when it comes to a resume, right, it's where you got to kind of put that aside, right, and actually talk your strong strengths through the resume itself.
I want to segue into tech companies, kind of jumping ahead here, but tech companies adapting their hardware strategies in response to these supply chain issues. We talked about a couple other things, but I want to talk about the hardware specifically now.
Yeah, I mean, so again, the chip shortages are like a pressure cooker trying, and it's going to create innovation. And so, edge computing is going to be less reliant upon, chip heavy data centers, right? So you're going to see innovation in that sector. Chiplet architectures, this is where the whole ideology that of the Snapdragon in China, in the whole deep think thing, that is kind of, creating a revolution within AI and the overall cost effectiveness of it in China is going to really play huge in the United States for the next couple of years.
Right.
And so this is a whole mix and match, use what you have to the fullest extent, if that makes sense. Software optimization is going to be huge as well in that, right? Because that's going to be the biggest component. And so a lot of folks that are worried that the software engineering side of things are going to dry up with AI, they couldn't be further off the mark. Blockchain for chip tracking, is going to be huge as well. I mean,
Right.
and serverless computing, right? Low power IoT, I mean, all of these things are going to get a turbo boost, and then in this whole shortage, because it's going to require innovation and really trying to figure out how to get the most out of what you have.
Sure. And the next question, I think you've touched on just a little bit, but I do think it's important to hit on it again just in case. But, what opportunities might emerge for IT professionals as companies seek to optimize their technology use in response to hardware constraints?
So, it comes back to a lot of the general topics that we tend to learn within IT that we don't think is as important as like building a huge server stack, I mean, and so, a lot of the fundamentals, right? Like basically understanding the need for cloud and how to migrate to the cloud, right?
Sure.
Obviously there's different levels, like playing an instrument like piano. Like you can start playing piano today, but that doesn't put you on a master level, right? So there's so many different levels to it. Just starting out is going to be beneficial for you. Take the plunge, right? Like go into cloud, learn optimization hacks, right? Learning how to make software run on lean hardware, that's going to be huge. Learning, staying curious and, staying up on, innovations that arise from all the shortages and these new tactics that will eventually end up being deployed to essentially make, software run leaner and meaner on, on older hardware. I mean, there's going to be a lot of innovation that comes, but I believe, your basic skill sets for hardware are going to be a huge play, right? Your ability to understand basic cloud administration, security cloud, all of these different things are going to be in the gamut of super hot categories within the next 2 years of the shortage.
And Rick, of course. Hi, Rick. Extremely coachable, reliable, hard workers are way harder to find than someone that can be trained. Yeah, level 1 help desk. The first thing, and you'll get to say, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we always appreciate you coming and hanging out. I want to talk about, I think the word you used was super hot technologies or something. I was going to piggyback off of what you said there, because of course I got to talk about AI, right? I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but AI, how might these industry changes affect the development of AI and machine learning technologies?
Well, it's definitely going to impact, like future, like evolution in the next 2 years of like seeing like say for XAI to go from Gronk 3 to Gronk 6, right?
Sure.
Like you're going to see, a slowdown in that evolution, right? But, when you talk about, Google's tensor processing units that are essentially built for neural networks and that are foundational within AI and machine learning, I think you're going to still see those data centers, be built in the same timelines.
Sure.
It's just going to be when you get down to the 7 nanometer and 5 nanometer chips, that's where the issue is within the supply chain, right? And so once we solve that, we're going to end up, progressing faster than your imagination can even fathom. I mean, it's hard to believe that we were having an AI talk in 2010, like, yeah, sure, AI,
Right.
right? And now everybody's using it, right? It's crazy, the entire evolution, right? But I think you're going to see, innovation in dev, to be able to utilize alternative chipsets like RISC-V and so on and so forth. And I think once you start seeing some of these innovations really take hold, you might see a boom in progression within AI. Because if you think about China's deep think, I mean, they're doing it for a fraction of the cost of what we're doing it in the United States on older chipsets, right? And so it really forced them to think outside the box and come up with a solution. And I think that that's the same thing that's going to happen here with AI, for sure.
It makes sense. And my next question, I do think is something we already touched on already, but I do want to, again, just make sure we hit the point of it is, what role do you see IT professionals, people in the industry already, playing in helping companies navigate these technology supply chain challenges? Would it be stuff as simple as making sure that you are upskilling to the next big thing, or is there something more specific?
Yeah, I mean, I think, don't discount your place in IT, right? That's always been an issue in IT, at least from my experience. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence complex,
Sure.
right? But nonetheless, though, I mean, if you're missing the core skill sets like cloud administration, right? Basic security administration, system administration, these basic things are still going to be in high demand, right? And so it really comes back to understanding the hardware at a very high level, and being able to understand that you can squeeze every drop out of your limited hardware, right? And it does require that, collaboration with dev, right? Like DevOps and all of that. And that's the other thing too, is like DevOps guys are like, oh, I need to switch to, AI, like, and all of these different things, I mean, there's always, I like to say that a lot of folks within IT are neurotic and paranoid that they're about to lose their job tomorrow, right? So they're always on that cusp of what do I need to learn today, know? And so, but I think we're pretty safe in the next couple of years. Cybersecurity, is going to remain a covenant place within IT. Cloud architects being able to pivot workloads to the cloud when you're missing chips for your hardware locally, right? All of these things are going to be a huge thing in the next couple of years during the shortage. And then once we get past the shortage, you're going to see an explosion within our sector for sure.
Yeah, well, like we said, guys, come hang out. You can get your certifications. So last question here, moving forward or looking ahead, how might these changes influence the future of IT infrastructure and system design?
Short term, you're looking at lean, smart, ready to roll style architecture, right? Kind of like what we referenced earlier with China, right? Like they're making what they have work. They're squeezing every drop out of their hardware. Modular infrastructure, chiplets and swappable servers for basic flexibility. Cloud first designs, being able to dodge shortages and hardware limitations with cloud power, right? But in turn, there are going to be higher costs associated with that. Energy efficient systems in data centers. When you talk about the system itself, really looking at low power chips, these are older chips, and being able to get the most out of them in the most efficient way, right? And then being flexible, right? From
That's
cloud
fun.
to hardware to networking. I mean, cybersecurity. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being well-rounded, right? But there is something wrong with thinking that when you are well-rounded, that you need to dive into something else, right? Because there's no place for you now, and so having confidence in yourself, that's going to be the hardest part the next 2 years,
Having those skills, saving those skill sets.
Yes.
Well, I think that was it.
Yeah.
I don't think I missed anything. Was there anything I didn't hit on, Cory, that we should talk about before we go?
No, I'm a gabber, so I'll just keep going. You just throw me something, and we'll be here till 3:00. Oh, finally, Aaron shows up. Finally,
Aaron looks like he's on a set of a David Lynch film.
It's just like any physical labor. I wait until the job's done, and I show up.
There's bandwidth shortages.
Really sorry about that. It's terrible. Here's a little tech tip for everyone. Cory, you can help us with that. So my laptop downstairs is an older Mac, and I've been having some problems with it. And I haven't been able to update the software in a long time, just because there's all kinds of storage issues. I've been offloading stuff, trying to remedy that. But somebody, I think, I'm sitting, I've been having a problem. I think somebody's in the Mac, because as you were talking, the cursor was moving and trying to click on things, and I was trying to pull it back. And eventually, whomever is in went and clicked me out of the event. So
wow.
I obviously, my advice that I've been reading is to go change all of my passwords, like for my network. Would you concur with that?
Oh yeah, that and go get you like a pot in the backyard, throw that MacBook in, spray some lighter fluid. No, I'm kidding.
No.
So the question really would be, from what year is that MacBook?
It's a 2000. I would imagine I got that in 2013-ish.
Yeah, it's no longer supported.
Yeah, they can't even update anymore.
Yeah, so that'd be your general issue. I mean, you could try, running some AV, but with Mac being super proprietary, that might be challenging on something that's not fully up to date.
I think I'm just never going to open that thing again, reset all my network connections.
And I'm a Mac. I love Mac, but
go from there. Yeah. So, and that stinks too, because I use it all the time, especially for these things, but we'll just have to figure it out.
And
I love Mac.
If it's a 2013 Mac, I bet you it has all the ports. It's got an SD card port.
It's
got all that you don't need to get.
Yeah.
So Bruce Ackerman had a question for us.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Bruce.
Here we go.
So you've seen a subtle
shift away from certs in favor of specific skill sets and hiring for some employers. Would you see that continuing, or are certs still the gold standard for the assessment of talent? Can you ID specific certs that will be especially useful in the current environment? Great question, Bruce. Thank you.
Yes and no, right? Absolutely, the skill set is dominating the market right now, right? But just remember that, people take the certification not only to prove their skill set, right? But also to foster the ability to have the skill set, right? And so there's still a place for the certification, but unfortunately, a lot of employers are wanting you to put up or shut up, right? So that involves, taking assessments and actually doing mock environments. And so I believe the CompTIA certs are still relevant because they do build a foundational knowledge. I believe your Cisco certs will always have a place in IT, because so many networks, Fortune 500 companies are Cisco based. And so those will always have relevance. Cybersecurity certifications as well, they build a lot of that foundational knowledge, even though the employer may not require it, right? How else are you going to string all the concepts together and learn them, right? So the best way is to consolidate it and get a certification. Nothing wrong with that, right? And in fact, there's a lot of employers that would rather you produce a certification then take a skill assessment, because some employers view the certification as proof of your skill set, right? But there's nothing wrong with having both, right? And so cover your bases. AI certifications are super hot, your software certifications as well, like Python, all these, leading, cutting edge, software languages, they're always going to have a place as well, even though no employer is really going to say, oh, you got a Python certification, right? How else are you going to learn it, right? So you might as well learn it in a logical way, right? If that makes sense. Hope that answers your question, Bruce. Miss you, buddy.
Good question, Bruce. Sorry, Patricia, I stepped on you there. Y'all let you close it out.
That was pretty much just making sure that we didn't miss anything. Was there anything that we didn't hit on? But I think we got it all. Unless there's anything else I missed. No.
Cory, you're awesome.
No, I'm good. I'm just appreciate y'all listening to me rant and rave.
Hey, it's a good rant and rave. It's a good one. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on our Friday. Please go enjoy your weekends. Stay dry. There's going to be rain, I think, everywhere. So hope you have a good one. What do we got? PGA this weekend? Is that what we were talking about earlier?
PGA, Preakness. And a quick note, next Friday we're off leading into the holiday weekend. So there's Bruce again. And then we will reconvene the following week, and we're going to talk student success, and we'll have more of that soon. I think Rick will be paying special attention to that one. So anyway, looking forward to that. Sorry, Patricia.
No, you're good. Everybody, thank you so much, Rick. We love having you here. We really appreciate it. And we always appreciate your comments. And it looks like too, he had some questions for you, Aaron, if you wanted to pop back over to Lincoln and talk to Rick about your MacBook. But
sure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick.
Got hockey this weekend too, or today at least. We'll see what happens. And then continuing on to the Stanley Cup. That's on my agenda.
There we go. Makes sense.
I had to throw that in there.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Be safe. Stay
Thanks,
dry.
Cory.
Have a great one. Thank you so much, Cory. If you don't mind hanging out, we'll continue chatting for just a minute. And see you guys in 2 weeks, I guess.
Have a great weekend, everyone.